Hi, I'm Lisa Sadrevek, and I am going to talk about pricing your artwork. It is confusing to people. It's hard to do. It requires some self-analysis and other things. And also, I think it's hard for people because art is personal. It's not just a thing, it's our heart, it's our passion that we put into our art. And so sticking a price tag on it is difficult at times. And so somebody comes up to you and says, would you draw my child? Would you draw my dog? And we suddenly freeze up and don't know what to say. So it's good to have a price list in place or a price range in mind. And how we arrive at that price, we very often undervalue ourselves. We often sell to the consumer, the buyer, and we're saying, oh, they pay this, but I really spent a long time on that piece. So how do I get them there? How do I educate them? So I've come up with a bit of a formula. Now, the formula may not include exactly what your base price is. My formula is going to work off a base price. So first I'm going to talk to you about how to come up with a base price. So there are lots of ways. You could do square inch. You could have size ranges. You could have hours that you spent on it. You could have none of the above. In the old days when I painted in oil, just figure if you were an art gallery, at the end of the month, you've got to have sold enough to pay your rent, pay your employees, blah, 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 pay yourselves, make a profit. So there's that idea that there's an income coming in because there's expenses going out. Well, you have expenses. You have your studio, you have your lights, your electricity, your food, your rent, your mortgage, whatever. Now, in the old days when I was painting in oil, you could not work on your oil painting every single day because mediums usually took 2 to 3 days to set up. So I'm bringing this up for a reason. There's this, I work on a piece on Monday, and then I work on a different piece Tuesday and Wednesday. I can't come back to that first piece maybe till Thursday. So when I tell somebody this piece took me a month to make, it may not have been the only thing I did. It might have been the only thing I completed, but it's definitely maybe the only thing I sold. And from that piece, if I only sold one piece that month, I've got to make my expenses. So thinking about your month, I know that there's an artist out there who I'm saying hi to, who, when she started as a single mom, she took her expenses and mortgage into account and said, I must do this many commissions each month. Now you can do it kind of in reverse and say, okay, when the year is over, I've sold an average of 2 pieces per month. So those 2 pieces should pay my expenses. Well, maybe my expenses are $1,500, $2,000. So I've got to sell my pieces for $1,000 a piece. Maybe somebody's not going to pay that amount for mine, or an average of, obviously some pieces are bigger, some are smaller. But how do I get myself to the point where my pieces are worth that, or the buyer's willing to pay the amount that I need? So that's why there's a formula here in place to kind of give us a starting point, give us an idea of what we must charge for it. There are people out there, there's nothing wrong with giving your artwork away as gifts, but there are people who severely underprice, and honestly, a word to them, that doesn't do any favors to your other friends who are working hard. There are different mediums that take more or less time. There are some people who can just sort of mass produce a bunch of, marbleized canvases, and they're doing the pouring method. And there's some of us who stroke by stroke draw. We need to educate our buyers that that's what we're doing. And so we maybe need to charge more, because it always went, oil was the top, and then acrylic and watercolor and drawings at the bottom. Well, the drawings we're doing in colored pencil are really paintings. We'll talk about that at another time. So anyway, I'm going to switch my camera around and show you. Well, first I'm going to share something you can download right from my website. If you ever went there and you were looking for a commission, I have a price list here. It has sizes, and I've borrowed things from different artists who I admire. The price list itself came from, the template for it came from Ann Kohlberg's Shine program, which is a good thing to do if you want to get into doing commissions. It's based on about $4 or $5 per square inch, but I've kind of adjusted, and I've given a size range. Like this 8 by 10 or smaller is a range. Anything 8 by 10 to 9 by 12. Here's a 9 by 12 to 11 by 14. In other words, these are size ranges. The names that I gave them came from a different artist who called them small, standard, medium, large, extra large, and custom. And my prices here, because they're available to the general public, they might be on my higher end. This way, if I needed to do the frequent buyer or friend discount, I can do that. It covers things. I've added, up here you can see there's 30% for an additional subject or $200 for a frame, and extra time for delivery for that. So there are things that you can learn from doing a program like Shine. You can also look at my contract and see how I would write that. But this is a jumping off point of sizes and prices for me. And a good thing to do, recommended by a lot of people and me, is take a good look at your work and compare it to others. I can look at my work and say, so-and-so does horses better or whatever. So-and-so does dogs worse. And I'm taking my own critical eye and placing myself in the middle, and that's where my prices belong, in the middle of the two people. Then I'm going, well, she's better at that, and I'm better at this, and I am better than somebody at doing people portraits, and I'm not as good at doing, so I'm taking a very honest critical eye to my own work and placing myself against other prices that are out there and saying, okay, I fall in the middle of that. That's a good thing to do. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to arrive at these prices. So our base price, we have that square inch size, hours, number of pieces that you sell per month, or that you'd like to sell per month if you're doing commissions. And this should be your base price. But the thing that people forget is a lot of stuff. There's a story of, okay, I'll first tell you, matte frames, entry fees, labeling, maybe even commission that you have to pay to the venue. And then here where it says prizes, sometimes when I have a piece and it's won a lot of awards, I'll bump it up another $100. That one, best in show, it's worth more. It's worth more to the person buying it because it's a piece that carries some prestige. So all of that plus this equals your base price. So now I'm at $1,000. Yay! No, we'll get to what that is. But take all these things into consideration when you decide what that is. And one of those things is that critical eye of looking at your work in comparison to others. Don't downgrade yourself. You can say, when you enter a show, I think I did that better than that person. Oh, but I think that person really deserved, their blue ribbon because they do that better than me. So there was a story circulating out there a few years ago. I had posted on my Facebook page about somebody who did one of those craft shows and earned, $300. Yay. So if that was her price, she had $300. Yay. Well, the venue's going to take 20%. So maybe that's, okay, so that's going to be $60. There was a booth rental fee, and that was $50. Whoops, I should put it over here. Your materials and framing, I mean, that's got to be at least another $50 and probably more like 75. Framing, even if you do your own frame, and then spent all day there. Materials. And because I used to spend all day at these craft shows, and so I was too tired to make dinner, and I had gas to get there. Well, that's got to be another $50 because I had to bring home some fast food and I had to fill my gas tank. And another thing that always happened to me was I would take my pieces and sure enough, I'd bump one and break a glass on one of them. So you could add that in, but that could be up here in the framing. So after all that, I've got, do some quick math, $235. So this poor person made $65 on their piece. That's all. So being all excited that you made 300. I always tell people art is the only thing that we put our heart and soul into, not the only thing people put their heart and soul into, but we put our heart and soul in there and then hope somebody gives us a paycheck for it. And then after all that, everybody's picked our pocket and that's our paycheck. So you've got to consider all these things that are going in. But now the buyer doesn't know that, and we can educate them a little bit on that. The first thing we can do to start off is find my sales sweet spot. I know if I put a piece of artwork out in a gallery, and I'm talking like maybe an 8x10. So 8x10 at $3 per square inch, I've got to be selling that for $240 and then plus all this stuff. So maybe $300. But if I put it out there for $150, man, it is going to sell. It is going to sell. So maybe that's my sweet spot that I'm going to learn to work up from. But let's just, for simplicity, say it's $100. If your work is selling at $100, just flying off the walls, it's time to raise your prices. So this is how you're going to teach the buyer to pay a little more for your lovely work. It's been said that when your books are full in your commissions, and you saw on my commission sheet, it said these prices are good till December of 2023. Well, do I have to wait till January of 2024 before I raise my price from this? No. When your books are full for the next 2 to 3 months, so let's say 2 months, they're full. If somebody would pay 100, somebody would pay 20% more. They don't mind paying 120. So now my work is flying off at the wall at 120, still telling me it's a good price and probably a little low. So 2 months, I'm raising it 144. 2 months, raise it another 20%. These are all 20%, approximately 20% increases. And you see that by January of the next year, I have almost tripled my price. So now I could do that if my sweet spot was 200 and people are buying it at 200. Same thing, every 2 months adding, and I've tripled the $200 all the way up to $600 or $300. I'm up here near $900 now. So you can triple your prices if you're too low. Now, if they're not selling, keep them there. Keep them at that place until that's okay. And then go, okay, now I'm going to go. Someone looked in my work area at a show once and said, prices are all over the place. My answer now is if you see it low, you better grab it because it's not going to stay there. So that is your sweet spot, and that's how you raise it 20%, 20%. And this is whether you're doing commissions or if you're selling in a gallery. Because if it's going off the wall at that price, it'll go off the wall at that price. Nobody has a problem with the $20 more. I know when all is said and done, we look at it and go, wow, I don't even make the minimum wage that somebody makes at the McDonald's or the fast food place. Now, I want you to consider this. Yes, people may be making more money than us, but people have their expenses and their things. So when their paycheck comes in, they have this much for rent and this much for that, and they have a leftover amount. That's for going out to dinner, buying a new outfit. How about for buying a piece of art that they'll appreciate for the rest of their lives? They can use their disposable part of their income on things that make them happy or things that aren't the absolute necessities of rent and food. So don't worry that other people are making more money. Just say, then you can too. You can make more than that. You can use a formula to raise every few months, every once in a while, whenever you see that you're having consistent sales, you are okay to sell it. So when to raise your price? When you're selling, when you're consistently selling, raise it up 20%. Just give yourself that 20%. And then you'll feel like my online price list. Hey, I'm a little padded there. I can give somebody, who comes in and says, well, I'm buying 2 pieces. Can I get something off it? Sure. Then you'll feel a little more generous in that area. But when you're underpricing, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm way underpriced. I'm way underpriced. I'm barely making what I spent on this, what I spent to make it. Nobody's paying anywhere near the hours that it takes to do a colored pencil or piece of art. So, you don't feel that generosity of, yeah, go ahead and I can give you the friend discount. Now, my next thing I wanted to talk about was pricing your cards, prints, anything that's merchandise. Like on Fine Art America, you can get t-shirts and tote bags and phone covers and anything you want of my art. I could go to a local printer and get cards printed or prints to put in a bin to sell. Again, we want to consider what it takes to make that. There's the cost of the printing, the mat and the backing board to display it, and the cellophane slip it goes in, any labeling, I have to buy some labels for price tags every once in a while. So divide that by the 100 pieces that I'll label, whatever. Shipping. Now, this isn't shipping to the customer. This is shipping to you. So if I ordered my prints from a print on demand company, like I can get them from Fine Art America, and they would be here. Let me write this out. I can order a print for $12. My mat, well, I buy them in bulk on Amazon, so maybe I'm going to put $5 because I'm buying like 10 or 20 at a time. Labels, that's probably like 50 cents, but the cellophane slip, let's say that's $1. My shipping, Fine Art America charges like $8 in shipping, but if I ordered 8, that'd be $1 a piece. Let's say I ordered 4 and put $2 there. And then commission, because I'm going to sell it at my gallery, I'm going to sell it at the Waterford Fair or whatever. So there's going to be 20% on all of this. So let's go. Well, there's just going to be 20%. So let me say 17, 18, 20. Let's put $4 or $5 here. So what did I end up with? I ended up with 17, 18, 25. So 25. Cost me 25, not $12 to get that print. Okay? So this merchandise you treat like the retail formula. Retail is always, they call it 50% markup. Really 100% markup times 2. So that print has to be at least $50. If you want to pad it, make it 55, because one place might be charging 20% commission, another place might be 25 or 30 or even more. So always round up. That way you're a little padded, just like the other prices. And then that print that I bought for $12, I've got to sell for 55 because I have all these expenses. And then you do the retail markup. times 2 and then round up. So that is totally different than something that you worked your hours on and all of that. I charge, as you saw, like $200 to frame. Somebody takes something custom somewhere and they're going to charge them $200 for the frame. It's almost like the frame costs more than the work. I buy my frames a little cheaper, but because of that, I have to do the framing. So remember my work time in putting the frame on, or labeling and matting and whatever, because I don't have a framer do it. I do it myself to keep the prices reasonable. So that is pretty much my formula for pricing. So if I have a sweet spot and it's $200 and I am selling off the wall at $200, put it up and people buy it, put it up and people buy it. I've taught them that my work is worth $200. So now it's time to teach them it's worth $240. Maybe if they're willing to pay $240, it's time to go up to the $288, the $300, whatever. You just want to say, as you're doing that, you're educating, you're lifting your own value, you're educating your buyers that your work is worth that. It's also in demand, because if they don't buy it at 200, you're going to raise your price at some point, but it's flying off the wall and they're not going to get it. So they better grab it when it's at 200. So that to the person who said my prices were all over, like I'm saying, if I still have something priced at the old prices, grab it, because they're all going up. You're creating kind of a demand for your work with that sweet spot. And then you're saying, okay, if you would pay 200, will you pay 240? And then they're saying, oh yeah, so 240 is your price. Your work is worth that. So maybe it's worth 288. Maybe it's worth, whatever. And those who are doing larger pieces and in the thousands, I have a sweet spot too for my larger pieces. And, it's right around $1,200. And if I put one of my big, wonderful pieces up and say, this is won the award at whatever, and it's, sorry for calling my own work wonderful, but they're the ones I really put my heart and soul into. But if they're selling at 1,200, will they sell it 20% more? Will they sell it, the 1,400 or 1,500 price range? And, I don't want to just stick there because, that's where they sell. No, there's a demand then. If I put a big piece up and it's 1,200 and it won't stay on the gallery wall at that price, then I've got to say, if you see that price, grab it, because if not, it's going up, and then people will have to buy more if they want it. So as you create that demand and educate your buyer that you're worth that, then you can raise your prices, and that's when you raise your prices. So some of you who started out with the base price level and said, well, I wanted my work to be worth $1,000. Well, we're moving them there. We're finding that middle sweet spot. Don't underprice. Make sure you've covered all your stuff you need to cover, but then educate them up, because you create a demand at the base price level, the sweet spot level. And then you go, hey, I'm worth a little bit more. Tell yourself you're worth a little bit more, because a lot of you out there, just as many of us who put our work at the top price and go, it's not selling. And I worked so hard on that and I've got to charge that. You've also got the people who underprice and, hey, you're worth more. It's okay. People will pay $20 more. They'll pay $40 more. I bought a piece recently, and if it had been, $30, $40 more, I still would have bought it. I loved it. You have to put yourself in the mind frame of the person who's buying the work. And my first piece of art I bought, and I thought, I'm not in the market for like real art, but I love this piece. It's meant for me. It's like it was made for me. Loved it. And, I started out by making payments at the gallery, and then I just said, oh, forget it. It's just my birthday present. I'm paying for it. So on the back of my artwork, and one way they will discuss what all of this is, I have a price tag, and that price tag is separate from my other stuff and my label information, because that price, it may need to change. If I'm selling somewhere that is only charging 20% commission. And then I'm selling somewhere that's charging 40% commission. I might adjust it a little bit. You don't want to do that too much because, you know, your prices on your website are your prices on your website. If somebody asked me, how much will you charge me for, you know, doing a drawing of my child? I have to give them something. So here's my quick answer. And it can be whatever, $3, $4, $5. But I tell them I'm X dollars per square inch. That gives them a framework. That gives them something they can understand. And I can tell them, if you want to look at a variety of prices, you can look at the price list on my website. It's based on that. If I wanted to say it's $4 a square inch or whatever, there it is. There's, you know, and what that relates to is, you want an 8x10 picture. 8x10 is at $1, $80. So at $3 per square inch, it's 240. At $4, it's 320. So that gives them a jumping off point. If you could give them kind of a square inch, so they can figure that out in their head and they have a little bit of an idea. So get a little framework. I'm not being specific because not everybody's work is the same. It's not the same medium. My price might be different if it was, you know, a graphite sketch or a full-blown color pencil painting or an oil painting versus a watercolor. Different things take different amounts of time. Take your own skill and ability level into consideration, match yourself against others, and find that. But I hope this gives you a framework, a formula, and I will post this with the video on my Patreon. Those of you who are on my Patreon classes, you get access to this kind of thing and this kind of video all the time. So go to lisarts.com, lisarts.com, and check out the classes page. I give away information like this, but sometimes it's reserved for those who are in my classes. This one I will make public because I think it's just general public information. But go to lisarts.com and join me, because you'll have access to all my past shop talks as well as current classes and past ones. And I also do workshops through the Yellow Barn. So there's a variety of different classes and workshops you can take with me, and there are videos that you may want to look back and say, hey, I need that information on photographing my artwork, or what did she talk about in that shop talk with Jan Fagan or whoever. So you will have access to this kind of information all the time if you're one of my students. So have a great day, make some art, and price it correctly so that our buyers know what we're worth. Thank you.